Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Vivek Ramaswamy takes a page right out of the Trump playbook when CNN hack Caitlin Collins tries to smear him on live TV. It doesn't end well for her.
One thing that you will likely be asked about on Wednesday night is foreign policy, and you recently said that to protect Taiwan, you would do this.
Guess what? We'll put a gun in every Taiwanese household, train them how to use it. That is how you make Xi Jinping think twice.
Do you really think that would be a sufficient plan to deter a Chinese invasion if it includes long-range missiles, ground troops, an aerial blockade, a naval blockade?
Caitlin,
all of the different measures here?
Caitlin, of course it's not sufficient. You take that tiny little clip when I've articulated at the Nixon Library last week, a 1-hour speech with a whole range of deterrents. That is part of it. But I've also said that I would pull Russia out of its military alliance with China. I've also said that we would bolster our partnership with India to be able to close the Andaman Sea and the Malacca Strait. I've also said that we would actually send a signal very clearly that we will defend Taiwan, moving from strategic ambiguity to strategic clarity to say that we will defend Taiwan until we have semiconductor independence in this country. And so, yes, part of this is turning Taiwan into a porcupine. I think exporting our Second Amendment is a relatively free or low-cost way to do that. But I find it laughable that you will take that clip and then put words into my mouth as though that was a sufficient deterrent. Caitlin, with due respect, that's a joke, especially when I've offered as expansive of a deterrent strategy as I have.
It's not putting words into your mouth, and it's not saying that you didn't say those other things. It's just saying that you did say that part of your
I never
effort
said
when
it was
comes
sufficient.
to Taiwan
I never
is
said
giving
it was sufficient.
people in Taiwan handguns.
There's the blinking.
This is really funny, Caitlin. It just is. It's been very educational for me to learn how media works. Yes, that is important. No one ever said that was sufficient to deter an invasion. From India to Russia to what I've said we would do with moving Ohio-class SSGNs to the South China Sea and to the Indo-Pacific. This is the stuff of actual deterrence and also strategic clarity that we would actually defend Taiwan. Yes, I do think I am the president who best knows how to deter China from going after Taiwan before we've achieved semiconductor independence, which is the most important foreign policy accomplishment the next U.S. president can deliver. And I gave a specific speech at the Nixon Library. In a big part, actually moving Russia out of China's alliance. But you also said that you would open up an NRA bureau in Taiwan. Is the reverse of what Nixon would have done.
I mean, you also talked about...
Yes,
I just think when you listen to plans to deter China, it typically focuses on radar systems and missiles that they need, not necessarily AR-15s.
I do think there's a reason why China does not have a Second Amendment. China is deathly afraid of a Second Amendment in its own country. And so making that an export to Taiwan is part of what many military experts call the porcupine strategy, which I do subscribe to and believe in. But I will not allow someone to put words in my mouth to say that I ever said that was sufficient. It is not.
She's a hack to the core. Now, granted, that's what happens when you work for CNN, but she has said whatever people have told her to say. She is ultimately, and I don't like using this phrase, but it fits, a listless vessel. And that's what happens when you work for a place like CNN, because you're hamstrung by what their viewership wants. Their viewership, which is essentially a part of the dominant class. A bunch of rich white ivory tower liberals. Those are the kind of people who watch CNN. And those forced to wait in the Atlanta airport. Those are the only two kinds of people. Hey y'all, as we know, you don't put all your eggs into one basket, right? So that's why I'm partnering over with my friends at Colonial Metals Group, who will help diversify your portfolio. And what they'll do is they'll set up for you a self-directed IRA account. You'll have direct access to your assets. You'll be able to see what all's going on. And it doesn't matter what the stock market does or what often happens, what the government does. Your assets will be protected. So let the team of experts over at Colonial Metals Group help secure your account and your family's future today. There's a link in the description below. Oh, and by the way, if you don't like that, there's a 1-800 number you can call. And most importantly, though, is the kicker. They'll throw in a safe and possibly up to $10,000 in U.S. silver to help you get things started. Now, back to regularly scheduled programming. So, what's really going on here? Why is she so desperate to put words in his mouth and mischaracterize exactly what he's saying and make him look like he's a complete moron? Well, again, it's the exact same answer as I gave before. The viewership, these rich white ivory tower liberals who are sitting up there thinking that they're kings of the world and wondering why none of the serfs below them actually appreciate the good things that they've done, because they want to sit there and try to slander anyone who says something different that breaks the echo chamber. Vivek, in this case, is espousing a point known as the porcupine strategy. That is, give every person as much munitions as possible against a potential tyrant and wait and see until how many spikes are going to prick that person when it attacks. Not too many predators are dumb enough to go after a porcupine, particularly after a first encounter, because you're going to learn the hard way. Now, there's a great quote from a Japanese general about trying to invade the United States. There will be a person behind every blade of grass, and with every blade of grass there will be a rifle. Now, I'm paraphrasing, I'm probably butchering that. But the point is, they never even bothered to attack the American homeland for two main reasons: logistics and the fact that everyone was armed. So let's focus on the everyone being armed first. First off, Vivek makes a wonderful point that there's a reason that the Chinese don't have a Second Amendment. Mainly because communists don't care about your rights, they just care about the outcomes by taking away your rights. And so they're never going to have a free and just society until everyone has the right to be armed. Furthermore, they're communists, so of course they're never going to be free. So that's one point. Another point is you give people munitions, you give people weapons, you give them the ability to defend themselves, either as a group with the military or even as a militia of individuals, or just house to house. The Taiwanese do not want to be invaded and taken over by a disgusting communist regime that wants to strip their fundamental rights away. We saw the riots in Hong Kong when the British finally said, well, we're giving up Hong Kong now. The people were furious and terrified, and rightly so. China is now a totalitarian state with a disgusting set of policies that should horrify anyone here in the West. So the goal is to arm the Taiwanese as much as possible. So why does Vivek talk about the porcupine strategy? And why does he talk about logistics? Well, the individual in the United States understands the idea of home ownership. And so when he's talking to Republicans, that sounds like a perfectly normal idea. But there's something deeper. Republicans love hyperbole, so you take them seriously. Democrats love hyperbole, so you take them literally. I want you to think about that. The Democrats want to use incorrect language, so you take them literally. Republicans will use language that sounds weird, but so you just at least think about it and go, you might have a point. Ironically enough, Republicans try to make you think, Democrats try to dictate. Funny how that works. And so the idea that we arm every Taiwanese citizen is something that the average American can understand, or at least the average Republican can. And that average Republican then thinks more in militaristic terms, not as individuals, but now as a military. Because once you have that individual self-worth, you can function better in a military setting. Because you understand what those weapons mean, and you understand what's at stake. But then, the last important part are the logistics. Taiwan is incredibly hard to get to from mainland China. Why? All the good ports are easily protected. The missile systems that we have set them up with gives them a fantastic defense. And furthermore, Taiwan, if it had a navy, would be a huge threat to Chinese exports because the best ports are not in South China, they're in northern China on the Chinese Sea. The Sea of China. And that means that their shipping costs get a little bit more if they have to go a long ways around Taiwan. And so they're always afraid that Taiwan's going to strike at a certain time. They're not. They're afraid of the other way around. But they want the Strait of Taiwan guaranteed. And that's why we don't give Taiwan a huge navy, but instead arm them with missiles as a defense mechanism. That is a perfect line. Unfortunately, China is trying to poise itself to cross that line. China is at a position very similar to Russia where they feel that they have no other alternative except to throw men and military resources. Vivek understands this. And he also understands how to best defend Taiwan from an American perspective, which is necessary because of their semiconductors. I could go on and on about this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a CNN hack who really needs a good dose of a reality check And she got it from Vivek because she tried to paint him as this ridiculous country bumpkin when he understands geopolitics better than she or anyone in her audience ever could. And it's beautiful. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.